They thought they were clever folks, real smooth, acting calm, like nothing touched them, like they could ignore your presence, pretend you didn't matter, and still sleep at night. But here's what life teaches us over and over. You can fake a lot of things, style, confidence, even love, but you cannot fake indifference forever. Because when someone like you, who gave from the heart, who stayed loyal even when it hurt, who saw the best in them when they barely saw it in themselves, finally goes quiet, that silence shakes them to their core. Not at first, not loud, but slowly, like a crack in glass, spreading where they can't stop it. See, my friends, some people don't value warmth until winter. Some don't notice the light until they're stuck in a room that's gotten cold and dark. That's you. You were the fireplace, the steady flame, the one that loved them not out of weakness, but out of strength. But they took it for granted. They called it too much. They acted bored, disconnected. They wore detachment like armor, thinking it made them powerful. But Stoicism doesn't lie. True power isn't in pretending you don't care. It's in being able to care deeply and still let go when you're not met halfway. You showed up, again and again, with full heart, real intentions, maybe even prayers under your breath, hoping one day they'd get it. But all they gave you back was silence, maybe breadcrumbs, and just enough attention to keep you around. But never enough to make you feel chosen. Some of you were ghosted, others were cheated on. Some of you are still in that relationship, but feel more alone than you did when you were single. And I know, it hurts. But here's what I need you to know. Your worth doesn't drop because someone refused to see it. A crown still holds value in the dirt. This message, this entire script, it's not about getting even. It's not about playing games. We don't stoop. That's not stoicism. That's not strength. This is about doing one thing that flips their delusion back onto them. One thing that makes them see, not through your words, but through your absence, just how badly they fumbled. Because when you stop showing up, when your energy pulls back without a fight, when you no longer react to their performances, that's when the curtain falls. That's when they realize you weren't the extra. You were the entire stage. They were never the main act. You were. It's time you stop begging for proof that you mattered. You already did. It's time you stop trying to make them see your value. They'll see it in the void. And when they do, they'll wish they never played cool in front of someone who would have given them the world. Let them carry that. Let their ego explain to their heart why you disappeared so quietly. Let their mind rot in the questions they never thought you'd leave them with. No closure. Just consequence. You, my friend, were never the one who needed to try harder. You were the lesson, the one their soul will cry about when the mask finally slips. And when it does, don't go back. Don't look back. Let your stillness be your storm. Let your silence be your proof. Stand tall, stand free, and remind yourself every single morning, I am the prize. I am the peace. I walk away in power. So here's what I want you to do. Don't just listen and nod like this is some background noise. No, I want you to mark this moment. I want you to stamp this shift into your mind like a seal, because something in you cracked open while you were listening. And that wasn't an accident. That was alignment. That was your higher self rising up through the noise saying, enough. So say it with your chest. Type it out loud like a declaration. I walk away in power. Not in pain, not in silence, not in guilt. In power. Put it in the comments right now and let the world know you're done begging to be seen. Let the algorithm feel your breakthrough. Let the people watching from the shadows know your time of chasing is over. And if this hit your heart like a punch of truth, don't just scroll. Press that like button. You don't just support me, you speak a message back into the universe. I'm done playing small. And hit subscribe too, because the healing doesn't stop here, and neither does your power. Stay with me, my friend. You've only just begun to remember who the hell you are. Number 1. The mirror breaks when you stop polishing it. You kept showing up again and again. Maybe it started with love, maybe it started with hope, but slowly it became survival. You kept checking your phone, rereading old messages, trying to find some deeper meaning in their dry replies, hoping maybe, just maybe, this time they'd say what your heart was aching to hear. You gave them more chances than they earned. You explained yourself when you shouldn't have had to. You gave context for your emotions. You softened your tone so you didn't come off too intense. You swallowed your pain to keep the peace. You were polishing the mirror, and you didn't even know it. See, folks, when you love someone deeply, your mind plays tricks on you. It tells you if you just explain one more time, they'll understand. If you just wait it out, they'll change. If you give them enough love, enough patience, enough of yourself, they'll finally value you. But here's the truth. You weren't helping them see you more clearly. You were helping them stay blind. You were keeping their image intact. You were making excuses for their detachment, for their silence, for the coldness in their voice. You were shining the mirror so well, they never had to look too closely. They didn't have to see the damage. They didn't have to face their own reflection. Because you were there, doing the emotional labor for them. Carl Jung said it best. What you resist persists. The more you resisted letting go, the more their behavior persisted. The more you tried to fix it, the more broken you felt. The more you showed up with a heart full of maybe this time, the more they leaned back into their illusion. That illusion. It was simple. They thought you'd never leave. They thought your love was eternal, no matter how they treated you. They believed their silence didn't carry consequences, because every time they pulled away, you were still there, still texting, still explaining, still making room for them in your heart while they gave you the bare minimum. But, my friends, something powerful happens when you stop. When you stop texting, when you stop explaining, when you stop making them the center of your emotional universe, when you stop polishing that mirror they've been using to feed their ego, it cracks. And when it cracks, it cuts them. Because now they see something they didn't expect. You're gone. Not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, spiritually. You're not waiting anymore. You're not checking your phone. You're not begging for a reply. You're just still, silent, unbothered. And that contrast, that's the emotional earthquake. Some of you might ask, but what if they really didn't understand me? What if they just needed more time? What if they come around later? And I get it. Those questions are natural. You loved deeply. You're wired to care. But let me ask you this. How long are you willing to shrink yourself waiting for someone else to grow up? How long will you burn out trying to light a fire in someone who can't even hold a match? If they needed more time, they would have communicated. If they wanted to understand you, they would have asked. If they truly valued you, they would have never let it get to this point. And I know pulling back is hard. Silence feels unnatural when your heart is full of words. But what's harder? Being uncomfortable for a few weeks while your heart heals, or staying stuck for months or years in a cycle that never respects your worth? Because the moment you stop polishing that mirror and walk away, you force them to face the reflection of their own choices. They don't get to blame you anymore. They don't get to hide behind your kindness. They're alone with their silence now. And that silence, it's louder than any speech you could have given. Let me give you a metaphor, my friends. Imagine someone throws dirt on a clear window, and every day you go outside and wipe it clean. At first, they appreciate it, maybe even say thank you, but after a while they expect it. They stop noticing the effort. They just assume you'll clean it up. But one day, you stop, and now the dirt piles up, and they're finally forced to look out that window and realize it's not you making it dirty, it's them. That's what happens when you stop polishing the mirror. They can't pretend anymore. The truth stares back at them. And you're free. You don't need to play their emotional janitor anymore. You don't need to prove your worth in a space that's already shown you how little they respect it. This is your power. This is the moment your peace becomes louder than your pain. When you no longer need closure because you gave it to yourself. When you no longer need a response because their silence gave you the answer. And when they finally look around and realize the mirror is cracked, the image is gone, and the person who used to hold them down in love and loyalty has walked away with grace, that's when the real regret begins. You don't need to yell. You don't need to send a long message. You don't need to throw shade. Just stop showing up for someone who keeps proving they don't know what to do with you. You are not a mirror to reflect their image. You are the masterpiece that was never meant to be understood by the small minds pretending to be deep. You are rare. You are powerful. You are already enough. And sometimes the boldest thing you can ever do is nothing at all. So here's your affirmation for today. Say it loud. Type it in the comments. Claim it like your next breath depends on it. I stop polishing their mirror. Say it again and again, because today you reclaim your energy. You reclaim your value. You reclaim your damn self. If this spoke to your heart, hit that like button. Let the universe know you're done playing small. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're only getting deeper. Stay with me. This isn't the end. This is the shift. Number 2. The echo and exit method. Let your silence be repetition. The most haunting sound in the world, my friends, is the sound of nothing. After everything. After all the messages, all the patience, all the silent prayers you whispered in the dark while they pretended they didn't notice your heart showing up bare. You see, when someone treats your love like background noise, the most jarring thing you can do is turn the volume all the way down and walk out of the room. That's the echo and exit method. Simple, clean, no fireworks, no final warning, no desperate paragraph trying to make them understand. Just one quiet shift, and it says more than any confrontation ever could. I no longer need you to get it. I get it now. I get you now. And I choose me. You're not ghosting. Ghosting is emotional immaturity. You're echoing their behavior with grace. They gave you silence, you return it. They were inconsistent, you disappear. They withheld clarity, presence, truth. You withhold your energy, not out of pettiness, but out of purpose. You're no longer reacting to chaos. You're responding with distance. And here's the part they never see coming. They expect a show. They expect one last emotional breakdown. They expect to hear from you next week, next month, when their ego feels bored. But what they get is stillness. Nothing. Just an eerie echo of their own games, only this time played back at them. And you know what that silence does? It exposes their truth. It exposes everything they refused to feel when you were there pouring out your soul. You ever walk into an empty church or abandoned hall? That echo, it chills you. It reminds you something used to live here. That's what your silence becomes. Not a void, but a reminder. A whisper that says, you had something rare here, and now It's gone. The hardest part? That moment right before you pull back. You'll hear the voice in your head. What if I'm wrong? What if they come around? What if they're just scared to open up? But let me ask you this. How many times do you need to bleed before you realize the knife was never yours to carry? They chose silence. Let them live in it. Let them choke on the echo of your goodbye that never had to be said. Because when you exit without drama, without the need to explain or justify your worth, you flip the script, you take back the narrative, you go from being the emotional pursuer to the one who saw the game and walked off the field with dignity. You don't slam doors, you don't block to prove a point, you just let the door close quietly behind you, and in that silence they'll hear everything you never had to say. Jung said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others." And now you know. You know how it feels to be breadcrumbed, to be stretched thin, to wait for a reply that never comes. You know your own breaking point, and in that knowing, you also know your exit. You no longer operate in desperation. You move in alignment. Because peace, it doesn't beg to be understood. It just leaves. It lets go. It creates space for something deeper, something true. And when they scroll your page, hear your name, or dream about your silence at 3 a.m., they'll realize it wasn't you that was confusing. It was their inability to face what they felt around you. Their detachment was never power. It was fear. But now, they've lost their mirror. And your absence will echo like thunder behind their every thought. So let them sit in their stillness. Let them hear your silence like a song they can't stop humming but can never find again. And you stay in your power. You don't need closure. You don't need proof. You don't need them to regret it loudly. Just trust. They do. Quietly, painfully, fully. Say it with me. Write it in the comments right now. My silence echoes truth. Type it with your chest. Let it be your vow. Press that like button if you felt the shift. And hit subscribe, because this isn't just a heartbreak recovery. This is a full return to self. Stay with me. You're not done rising. Number 3. Reputation reversal. When you become the story. They can't escape. They called you clingy, emotional, needy, too much. Maybe they rolled their eyes when you expressed your feelings. Maybe they told their friends you were dramatic, unstable, always overthinking. They painted a version of you so far from the truth, they started believing it themselves. But here's the beautiful thing about reality, my friends. It doesn't need to argue. It just waits. And when you finally stop explaining yourself, when you stop defending your character and pull your energy all the way back, the story starts to unravel. Because the thing about people who play victim while they're hurting others, they rely on you staying close. They rely on you chasing, reacting, proving them right. But when you remove yourself from their stage, the script falls apart. Now they're standing there with no one left to blame, no one to provoke, no one to perform in front of. And the audience starts noticing. The same people they vented to, now they're watching how quiet you've become, how peacefully you've bowed out, how focused you are on yourself. And suddenly the cracks in their mask start to show. Their detachment starts looking like cowardice. Their avoidance starts looking like guilt. Their cool, calm, and collected starts looking like emotional immaturity. Carl Jung said, "The brighter the light, the darker the shadow." And you, my friend, were the light. You were the one with the emotional depth, the empathy, the willingness to communicate. And the brighter you glowed, the more they felt exposed. They didn't know how to match your depth, so they minimized it. They mocked it. They made your love look like a flaw. But now, Your disappearance is casting the spotlight on their shadow, and the world is watching. This is what I call reputation reversal. It's not revenge. It's not manipulation. It's the truth slowly catching up to the lie. And it always does, because silence has a way of sharpening perception. When you stop defending yourself, people lean in. They start wondering, why did she really leave? Was she actually the problem? Why is she so calm, so centered, while he's still throwing shade and playing cool? And here's the twist. You become the story, the one that lingers, the one that their friends bring up when they're not around, the one they low-key check on through social media, through mutual friends, through dreams they don't admit having. You become unspoken proof of their failure. Not because you said a word, but because your absence reveals everything they tried to cover. They made you out to be an emotional mess, but now you're glowing in stillness, walking in clarity, building in silence. They tried to control the narrative, but now the story is shifting, and you're not even in the room. That's the power of detachment. That's the impact of walking away with grace, not fire. Let them spin, let them scramble, let them try to rewrite the ending. The truth? It's already speaking louder than their lies ever could. So don't chase vindication. Don't waste your time trying to correct their version of you. The universe is already correcting it for you. Their illusion is collapsing. The shadow is being exposed. And you? You're just living, breathing, free. Let them carry the weight of what they did when no one was watching. Let them explain your silence to their own conscience. That's not your job anymore. Say it with me and say it proud. I am the story they can't escape. Write it in the comments like you're claiming your crown back. Press that like button if you're done shrinking to fit their lie. Hit subscribe because we're building an unshakable self here. One truth, one shift, one echo at a time. Stay with me. This is your power now. Number 4. Let their audience become your witness. You spent so much energy trying to make them see you, trying to prove your value, explain your heart, justify your love. You spoke your truth to deaf ears, hoping one day they'd wake up and realize who they were losing while they still had you. But let me ask you something, my friend. How long are you going to perform for an audience that refuses to clap? Stoicism teaches us that validation from those unwilling to understand us is not only exhausting, it's a waste of soul. So stop convincing them. Let their audience become your witness. Because here's what always happens when you detach with grace and start moving different. They might not notice right away, but the people around them do. The same people they gossip to, the ones who heard the twisted version of you, the ones who believed you were desperate or doing too much. Now they're watching you elevate, quietly, elegantly, no shade, no mess, just results. You post something new, clean, unbothered, glowing. You change your circle, maybe even your city. You stop reaching out, stop reacting, stop explaining. You become less visible in their world and more magnetic in the world at large. And suddenly the whispers start. Yo, did you see her lately? She's really doing her thing. Why'd you let her go again? See, karma doesn't send you a text message. It sends witnesses. They start to hear your name in rooms they never expected. You show up in conversations they don't control. Your glow becomes the headline, and they weren't invited to the premiere. That's the beauty of rising in silence. Your evolution speaks where your words used to beg. You stop being someone they pity and start becoming someone they admire from afar. Someone they can't reach anymore. And don't get it twisted. They feel it, even if they act like they don't. They hear about you from their mutuals. Their friends start asking questions. Their new partner notices the way they flinch at your name. And their conscience. It's the loudest witness of all. Because deep down, they remember. They know what they did. They know what they lost. And now they get to sit front row while you build a life that no longer includes them. Jung said, "Shame is a soul-eating emotion, and nothing feeds that shame faster than watching someone you mistreated become untouchable. You become their silent reckoning, their lesson, their mirror. And what's powerful is you didn't even have to lift a finger. You didn't seek revenge. You didn't argue. You just let life expose the truth. Some of you might feel tempted to show off, to throw subliminals, to post for attention. But don't. That's not Stoicism. That's not power. Real power moves quietly. It doesn't need a mic. It doesn't need permission. It just moves. And the ones who need to see it, trust me, they do. So focus on your growth, your glow-up, your healing. Let your peace speak louder than your pain ever did. Let their circle talk. Let their new person ask questions. Let their memory of you age like fine wine, complex, rare, unforgettable. Because the truth always makes its way through the cracks. And you don't need to say a word. Write it down, make it your mantra, type it in the comments right now. They'll witness my glow-up. Say it like a vow to yourself. Press that like button if you're ready to be seen without chasing. Subscribe if you're walking away from proving your worth and stepping into showing it. Stay with me, you're just warming up. Number 5. Kill the fantasy with radical grace. They still think you're stuck. Somewhere in their mind, they've built a comfortable little fantasy where you're frozen in time, checking your phone, overthinking what went wrong, waiting for them to come back, and finally say what they never had the courage to say before. They tell themselves you're bitter, replaying the heartbreak on a loop, lost in the wreckage of what they did. That's the fantasy they cling to, because it protects their ego. If you're stuck, they don't have to feel guilty. If you're waiting, they don't have to face the cost of their detachment. But what happens when the version of you they made up dies? See, most people aren't afraid of losing you. They're afraid of you not needing them anymore. And when you evolve with peace, not petty, not loud, just clear, that's when the illusion shatters. You become the plot twist they never prepared for. You forgive them, but you don't invite them back. You wish them well, but from a distance they can't close. You smile differently, dress differently, carry yourself like you've already arrived. And that, my friends, is what I call radical grace. Radical grace doesn't mean you forget the pain. It means you no longer carry it like a banner. It means you heal in a way that doesn't require them to validate it. You grow without needing applause. You glow without dimming someone else's shadow. And that's the sharpest blade to their fantasy, because now they have to face something far more painful than your tears, your freedom. Stoicism teaches us to release attachments that don't serve our highest self, to act, not react, and your grace becomes the ultimate Stoic weapon. You didn't get revenge. You didn't make a scene. You just kept walking, kept growing, kept loving yourself out of the place where they left you. And now they're looking at a person they no longer recognize. They're watching someone who once begged for crumbs become a feast for someone else, or just for her damn self. They can't figure it out. How is she not bitter? Why isn't she reaching out? Who is she becoming without me? And that last question, that one keeps them up at night, because your radical grace isn't just powerful, it's threatening. It forces them to confront a version of you they tried to suppress. the version that didn't need them, the version that realized, I was never too much, you were just too little. And you didn't announce your transformation, you became it. That's what burns the most. Not your rage, not your sadness, but your calm. The serenity that says, I'm not waiting for you anymore, I've already arrived. So let the old version of you die, the one that over-explained, the one that cried silently into pillows, the one that prayed for them to change. She served her purpose, but now it's time to be the woman they never imagined you'd become, the one who walks in truth, who holds her peace like a weapon, who doesn't respond, doesn't chase, doesn't explain, just exists above it. And that, my friend, kills the fantasy. It collapses the lie they told themselves, and it forces them to meet a truth they'll never be able to rewrite. Say it with me. Type it in the comments right now like it's your rebirth. My grace rewrites the story. Press that like button if you're done letting someone else's ego define your worth. Subscribe if you're stepping into power with silence, not noise. Stay with me. We're exposing every lie they believed about you. Number 6. Shift from magnet to myth. There's a moment, my friends, when you stop being the one they think they can reach. You stop being the warm presence they assumed would always be there, the gentle energy they could lean on when the world got loud. That moment, it's when you shift from being a magnet to becoming a myth. And trust me, that shift is spiritual. See, magnets pull, they attract, they respond. A magnet always wants to stay connected. That was you, always available, always drawn in. You weren't weak, you were just open. You loved with immediacy, you gave without conditions. But when someone starts treating that love like it's replaceable, that's when the alchemy begins. That's when your soul stops pulling and starts disappearing, slowly, quietly, powerfully. Now, you're not trying to attract them anymore. You're not responding to breadcrumbs. You're not reacting to their coldness with emotional fireworks. You don't send the, I just wanted to check in text. You don't post to get their attention. You become unreachable. And unreachable, folks, is unforgettable, because what they can't touch anymore starts to echo in their soul. Carl Jung said, people will do anything to avoid facing their own soul, and you, in all your depth, brought them too close to it. That's why they ran. That's why they played it cool. They didn't want to feel exposed. But now that you've vanished from the stage, now that the show is over and the lights are off, all they're left with is the myth of you. Not just your body, not your voice, but the haunting ache of everything you were when they didn't appreciate you. Think about it. When someone tells a story of someone they lost but never got closure from, it lingers longer. It stays alive. That's what you become. A soul they touched but never understood, a presence they felt but never deserved. You're no longer a memory. They can't even pin you down long enough to call it that. You're a myth, and a myth doesn't need to explain. A myth becomes legend because it walked away before it could be tamed. They might see your name somewhere, hear your laugh in a stranger's voice, smell your scent in a hallway, feel your energy in their dreams, but they'll never be able to reach it again. That's what happens when you walk away without bitterness. You become larger than life, and nothing tortures the human mind more than something that once felt close, but is now untouchable. And the truth is, they never really lost you when you walked away. They lost you when they stopped treating you like someone sacred. But now they're finally feeling it. not because you yelled, not because you tried to prove a point, but because you vanished so cleanly, so completely, that their own soul is echoing your name. That's the paradox. When you become unreachable, they start chasing shadows, looking for you in people who can't touch your frequency. And the more they search, the deeper the myth becomes. So if you're in that in-between stage right now, fading out but still doubting yourself, let me remind you, they don't miss your presence yet because your absence hasn't fully hit them. But when it does, it hits like a ghost they can't exorcise. They'll try to move on, try to laugh it off. But some part of them will always return to the story of you, not to fix it, just to relive the echo of what they lost. Write it now. Say it like you know who you are. I've become the myth they can't forget. Put it in the comments. Press that like button if you're done being reachable to people who couldn't respect your depth. Subscribe if you're stepping out of their orbit and into your legend. Stay with me. We're only rising higher from here. Number 7. The paradox of absence. Why they miss you only after you're gone. It's a strange thing, isn't it? You gave them everything, your time, your attention, your loyalty, and yet, while you were there, they treated it like background noise, like your love was part of the scenery, always accessible, always on standby. They never had to pause and truly feel your presence because they assumed you'd never leave. But now that you're gone, really gone, no warnings, no final speech, just gone, they're waking up in a silence that screams your name. That's the paradox of absence. We only start to long for what we believe we can't get back. So as long as you were emotionally available, even while being mistreated, they treated you as disposable. They didn't have to cherish you. They didn't have to show up. Your presence became routine, and routine dulls the senses. Familiarity blinds the mind, until suddenly you're not there. And now they're stumbling through their days, not sure why every room feels colder, why every laugh feels emptier, why every face they see reminds them of a warmth they no longer have access to. You didn't slam the door. You didn't beg them to see your worth. You just disappeared. That's what messes with them the most. You didn't give them closure to twist into justification. You didn't give them one last emotional scene they could replay to paint you as too much. You gave them nothing, and that emptiness, it doesn't just hurt, it rearranges their memory. It forces them to replay moments they took for granted. Except now, they feel them. See, when you were always there, answering calls, replying quickly, showing up without hesitation, they built a comfort around your energy. They didn't have to earn it, but absence forces reflection. It magnifies everything they ignored. They don't just miss you, they reimagine you. They remember how your voice softened when they were stressed, how your presence made the world feel safe, how you never stopped believing in them, even when they gave you every reason to walk away. But now that you're no longer there to remind them, their own memory does the work. And the mind, when haunted by guilt, becomes a cruel storyteller. They'll start asking questions they can't answer. Did she stop loving me? Was she always this strong? Did I ever really know her? And that ache, it doesn't come from your presence. It comes from the lack of it. That's the paradox. You were once a comfort they ignored. Now you're a ghost they can't escape. You want to make someone miss you? Don't scream, don't prove, just leave. Not with spite, but with silence. Not with hate, but with clarity. That's what shifts everything. Your absence becomes the mirror they refused to look into while you were standing right in front of them, and now they're left staring into it, night after night, wishing they'd said more, shown up better, been ready when you were still open. But you're not open anymore. You're no longer a door, they closed it. And now they stand on the other side, pressing their ear to the wood, praying for a sound that will never come. So take this as your confirmation. They do miss you. Maybe not publicly, maybe not in a way you'll ever see, but privately, internally, emotionally. Oh, they feel it. That void. That's the cost of underestimating someone who was once emotionally all in and now emotionally gone. Write it in the comments like a final stamp of power. My absence rewrote the story. Smash that like button if you're done being available to those who couldn't value your presence. Subscribe if you're walking fully into your glow, no looking back. Stay with me. Your silence is still speaking volumes. Number 8. No closure, just consequence. Let their mind rot in what they didn't say. They'll come back one day, not to apologize, but to explain, to smooth it over, to try and tie up the loose ends of the mess they left behind. But listen closely, my friend. That's not for your healing. That's for their comfort. They don't need closure. What they need is consequence. See, closure is often just a final attempt to control the narrative, a chance to make their choices sound less cruel, their silence seem more reasonable, their betrayal look less intentional. They want to talk it out, not because they're ready to make it right, but because the guilt is getting louder than the ego. They want to clean the wound they caused with words they should have said months ago. But let me tell you something that'll free your soul. You don't owe them that conversation. Let their silence be the mirror. Let their ego wake them up at 2 a.m. with questions they'll never get answered. Let their memory of you carry the weight of the words they swallowed, the "I love you" they held back, the "I'm sorry" they never muttered, the "I knew you were the one" they refused to admit. Let those words rot where they buried them, inside their own chest. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can ever do is disappear with grace and say nothing at all. You don't need to slam doors or send emotional monologues. You don't need to expose them or seek justice in conversations. You are not their therapist, their mirror, or their safe space anymore. You are the consequence. You are the question they never saw coming. Why did she finally stop? And that question, that's what haunts them, because it doesn't come with answers. It comes with stillness. It comes with memories. It comes with regret. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And right now, your absence is making their unconscious scream. They're not used to silence being the final answer. They're used to you showing up, explaining, forgiving, trying. But this time, you didn't. This time, you left with your dignity intact. No drama, no tantrum, just a clean, mysterious goodbye. And mystery destroys the ego. It leaves room for imagination, and imagination fills in the blanks with pain. They'll wonder if you've moved on, if you ever loved them at all, if someone else is now getting the version of you they wasted. They'll wonder how they lost you without even noticing it happen, and they'll realize they didn't lose you when you walked away. They lost you when you had nothing left to explain. That's why closure is overrated. It's often just a final attempt to escape the pain they created. But you're not here to soften the fall. You're not here to rescue them from the mess they made. You're here to live, to evolve, to rise without them. Let them make peace with the silence they created. Let their unfinished business become their longest chapter. And you write a new story. One that doesn't start with pain, but with power. So no, they don't get closure, they get consequence. And if that feels cruel, remind yourself they had 1,000 chances to speak. They chose silence. Now they get to live in it. Type it in the comments. Say it like a vow to yourself. I am the consequence. Hit that like button if you've outgrown explanations. Subscribe if you're done being the one who breaks first. Stay with me. This is how legacies are born, in silence that speaks louder than 1,000 apologies.